Ancient Rome. It's a name that just echoes through history, doesn't it? And you've brought us a whole stack of sources on it, this legendary civilization. So we're excited to dive in. But before we picture ourselves in togas and whatnot, let's set the stage a little bit. Ancient Rome. It wasn't just one thing, was it?
Not at all. Not at all. When we say ancient Rome, we're really talking about a civilization that spanned centuries. We're talking kings, emperors, republics, the whole shebang. Imagine a society that's constantly evolving, always pushing its boundaries geographically and in terms of its own identity. It's really quite fascinating.
So less about memorizing dates and more about understanding, well, what made this civilization tick.
Exactly. And a good place to start is with its sheer scale, actually. At its peak, the Roman Empire was home to something like 20% of the world's population. To put that in perspective, that would be like combining the populations of China, India, the U.S., and Indonesia today.
Whoa, all under Roman rule.
All under Roman rule.
See, you hear Roman Empire, and you know it was big, but that really puts it into perspective.
It really does, doesn't it?
No wonder their influence is still felt today, I guess.
Precisely. Think about it. So much of what we consider fundamental to Western civilization, languages, laws, architecture, even the way we design our cities, it can all be traced back to ancient Rome.
Okay. So we're dealing with a civilization that wasn't just big, but influential. But every empire has to start somewhere, right? Where does the story of ancient Rome actually begin?
Well, legend tells us it all began around 753 BC with two brothers, Romulus and Remus. They were raised by a she-wolf.
Of course.
And founded a city on 7 hills. A captivating tale, to be sure, but...
Less wolf mother, more, a muddy village struggling to survive.
Archaeology paints a slightly different picture, you see. More like a strategically located village built on, drained swampland.
Okay.
Surrounded by powerful neighbors. Recent digs actually suggest that early Rome was far from glamorous. But those beginnings, they reveal a lot about the Roman character, don't they? Their resilience, their pragmatism, and their sheer determination to not just survive, but to thrive.
Draining a swamp to build a city. Talk about dedication. Okay, so Rome wasn't built in a day, and it certainly wasn't handed anything on a silver platter. But how did this small village evolve into a republic? It wasn't emperors calling the shots at first, right?
You're right. It wasn't emperors. Rome's first form of government was a monarchy, actually. But around 509 BC, they transitioned to a republic. Now, this wasn't a smooth transition. It was marked by power struggles, internal conflicts, and a real desire for a more balanced system of governance.
So instead of one ruler with all the power, they created a system with checks and balances to prevent any one person from having too much control.
Exactly.
That's where the Senate and the consuls came in.
Exactly. The Senate was a council of elders who advised the leaders and made laws, and the consuls were 2 elected officials who held the highest executive power, but they only served for 1 year. This was to prevent any one person from becoming too powerful. It was a novel concept for the time, designed to, prevent tyranny.
And it sounds strangely familiar, doesn't it? The idea of dividing power, having different branches of the government. You can definitely see how that Roman model has influenced, political systems throughout history.
Absolutely. The Roman Republic, despite its flaws, was a remarkable experiment in governance. But this new system, it would be put to the test as Rome's ambition grew and their eyes turned towards expansion.
And that brings us to those epic battles I mentioned earlier, right? Because you can't conquer the Mediterranean without stepping on a few toes or encountering a few elephants along the way.
Ah, yes, the elephants. Rome's rise, inevitably, it led to conflict. Most notably the Punic Wars against Carthage, another rising power in the Mediterranean. And you can't talk about the Punic Wars without mentioning Hannibal.
Right. The brilliant Carthaginian general. He marched an army complete with elephants across the Alps.
Elephants crossing the Alps, that's not just a military campaign. That's a engineering and logistical nightmare.
It was a bold, almost unthinkable move. Hannibal, he aimed to catch the Romans off guard by attacking from a completely unexpected direction. And while he ultimately didn't conquer Rome, his daring strategies and his military genius, they left an undeniable mark on history. It's a testament to the kind of challenges that the Romans faced as they expanded their influence. So David and Goliath, but with more war elephants. Did Rome eventually overcome these challenges, or did Hannibal's audacious moves kind of put a dent in their plans?
Rome faced serious setbacks during the Punic Wars. but ultimately they emerged victorious.
Okay.
These hard-fought victories spanning decades, they proved Rome's resilience and their adaptability on the battlefield.
Resilience seems to be a recurring theme with them, wouldn't you say?
It does seem that way, doesn't it?
First the swamp, now Hannibal. So after proving their might, did the Roman Republic, did they finally transition into, well, the Roman Empire we all know from textbooks and movies?
That transition, that's where things get really interesting. You're right, the Republic, it didn't just smoothly evolve into an empire. It was a time of immense internal struggle, shifting power dynamics, and, well, larger-than-life figures like Julius Caesar.
Ah, Caesar. I feel like everyone's heard the name. But beyond the whole crossing the Rubicon and the Ides of March thing, how much did he actually shape the Roman world?
Caesar was, well, he was a pivotal figure in the late Republic, a skilled general, a shrewd politician, and a populist leader. He understood how to appeal to the masses and how to amass power. He even formed the first triumvirate with two other powerful figures, Crassus and Pompey, to, well, further consolidate their control.
Sounds a lot like those alliances you see in history, the ones just destined to crumble under their own ambition. Am I right?
Unfortunately, you are. The first triumvirate, it eventually fractured, leading to civil war. Caesar's victories in Gaul, they only heightened his influence and fueled his ambition. He returned to Rome, more powerful than ever, a move that ultimately led to his assassination on the infamous Ides of March.
Stabbed by his own senators. You know what they say, all the power in the world can't save you from a backstabbing toga party. But Caesar's death, it didn't exactly bring peace to Rome, did it?
Quite the opposite, actually. His assassination created this power vacuum, throwing Rome into a period of real turmoil and uncertainty. This led to the rise of the second triumvirate, with Octavian, Caesar's grandnephew and heir. He joined forces with Mark Antony and Lepidus.
Octavian, that name rings a bell. Isn't he the one who eventually becomes the first Roman emperor?
You're remembering correctly. Octavian, later known as Augustus, played a masterful political game. He outmaneuvered his rivals, including Mark Antony and Cleopatra, consolidating his power and, ushering in the era of the Roman Empire.
So from swamp to republic to empire. Quite the journey. What did this new era under Augustus, what did it look like? Was it all gladiators and grand pronouncements from the get-go?
The transition wasn't without its bumps, of course, but Augustus, he proved to be a shrewd and capable leader. His reign inaugurated a period of relative peace and prosperity. It's known as Pax Romana, Roman peace. During this time, the empire flourished, expanding its borders while experiencing this golden age of cultural and technological advancements.
This is where we start to see those impressive feats of engineering, right?
Exactly.
Aqueducts, roads, even indoor plumbing. Not bad for a civilization that started by draining a swamp. Did this focus on advancement and expansion? Did that define Augustus's rule?
Well, Augustus definitely prioritized stability and prosperity. Expansion remained this core aspect of Roman policy. He understood that a powerful empire, it required a strong military and strategic control over vital resources and territories.
So while there was peace within the empire, they were still flexing their muscles on the world stage. Talk about a power move.
Indeed. And it's important to note that this expansion, while it brought wealth and resources to Rome, it also came at a cost. You see, it often involved conquest, subjugation, and the exploitation of conquered peoples. The Roman Empire, for all its achievements, it was built on a complex and often brutal system. But those complexities and contradictions, those are what makes studying it so fascinating, even today.
It's a good reminder that history is never, never black and white.
Yeah.
So we have the rise of the empire, this golden age of expansion and advancement. What happens next? Do things start to unravel? Or did they continue on this path of glory?
Welcome back. We're picking up where we left off. Rome, a shiny new empire with a knack for engineering and a talent for expansion. But empires, as they say, they aren't built to last forever. What were some of the cracks starting to show in Rome's seemingly flawless facade? Well, you've hit the nail on the head with the word seemingly. By the 3rd century AD, the Roman Empire, for all its might, was facing a confluence of challenges. Historians even have a rather dramatic name for it: the crisis of the 3rd century.
Okay, that definitely sounds ominous. What did this crisis look like on the ground?
Imagine a perfect storm of internal and external pressures. Rampant inflation, it was crippling the economy, while political instability led to a a revolving door of emperors, each vying for power. And if that wasn't enough, those barbarian tribes we hear about, they were putting increasing pressure on the empire's borders.
So from Pax Romana to more like Panic Romana.
Something like that, yes.
It sounds like things were spiraling a bit out of control. Did any of the emperors during this time, did they try to turn things around?
One emperor in particular, Diocletian, he made a rather radical attempt to restore order. He implemented a system known as the Tetrarchy, dividing the empire into 4 parts, each ruled by a different emperor.
Dividing the empire. That sounds like a desperate move. Did it work?
It was a drastic measure, certainly, but Diocletian, he believed it was necessary to manage such a vast and unwieldy empire. While the Tetrarchy did provide some temporary stability, it ultimately couldn't solve the deep-rooted issues plaguing Rome.
This is where Constantine comes in, right? He's one of the most famous Roman emperors, known for his embrace of Christianity. How did he impact the trajectory of the Roman Empire?
Constantine's rise to power in the early 4th century AD, it marked a significant turning point. He reunited the empire, which had been, divided under the Tetrarchy, and he made a momentous decision. He granted Christianity legal status and eventually adopted it as his own religion. This had profound implications for the empire, shifting its cultural and religious landscape in ways that still resonate today.
It's amazing to think about how one emperor's decision could have such a lasting impact.
Yeah.
But Constantine, he did more than just embrace Christianity, didn't he? He also moved the capital of the Roman Empire from Rome to Constantinople.
That's right. He recognized the strategic importance of the East, with its wealthy cities and closer proximity to trade routes. Constantinople, strategically located on the Bosporus Strait, it became the new center of power for the Roman Empire, marking a shift in focus from the west to the east.
So if Constantine gave the empire a second wind, what ultimately led to its downfall?
Well, you have to remember that even with Constantine's reforms, the Roman Empire was still a vast and complex entity with deep-seated problems. By 5th century AD, the Western Roman Empire in particular, it was facing this relentless pressure from those migrating Germanic tribes. Weakened by internal strife and economic woes, the Western Roman Empire finally crumbled in 476 AD, when the last emperor, Romulus Augustulus, was deposed by a Germanic general named Odoacer.
The end of an era. But you mentioned the Western Roman Empire. Did the East share the same fate?
Not quite. While the Western Roman Empire fell in 476 AD, the Eastern Roman Empire, centered in Constantinople, it lived on for nearly another 1,000 years, flourishing as the Byzantine Empire. That's a story for another deep dive.
Definitely. But before we get completely sidetracked, let's talk about Rome's legacy. It's clear that ancient Rome, it wasn't just about togas and gladiators. What are some of the ways we still see their influence in our world today?
You're right. It goes far beyond the stereotypes. Think about the languages we speak, many of which have roots in Latin. Consider our legal systems and concepts of justice, which draw heavily on Roman law. Even our architecture with its arches, domes, and concrete, all innovations that the Romans pioneered.
It's incredible to think about how a civilization from so long ago could have such a lasting impact.
Yeah.
What would you say is the most important thing for people to take away from learning about ancient Rome?
Perhaps it's the realization that even the most powerful empires, they rise and fall, but their legacies, they can endure for millennia. Rome's story, it reminds us that civilizations are complex, constantly evolving entities, shaped by both triumph and tragedy. By studying their successes and failures, we gain a deeper understanding of our own world and the forces that have shaped human history.
From humble beginnings to a sprawling empire, ancient Rome certainly left its mark on the world. So the next time you encounter a Roman numeral or admire a grand archway, or even just enjoy a nice slice of pizza, remember you're witnessing the echoes of a civilization that helped shape the world we know today.
Thanks for diving in with us, and until next time, keep exploring.